In this video, I'm going to discuss this question, which is from Module 2. This is like solving puzzles. So these are questions where you're given puzzles and you're asked to make logical arguments to validate or to make conclusions, right? So this question says there is an island where there are two kinds of inhabitants: knights who always tell the truth, and knaves who always lie. Now you encounter two people A and B, right? So we don't know what kind of people A and B are. So the question is to determine like what kind of is it possible if possible determine what kind of people A and B are with the help of what A and B says, right? So so how you can do this question is by so I'll show the logical steps, a sequence of steps that you can, and the logical arguments that you can use to solve problems like this. So first you have to use propositional variables. So let's say P represents A is a knight, right? And Q represents B is a knight, right? So knights will always tell the truth and knaves will always tell lies, right? So let's start by an assumption, right? So let's assume that A is a knight. So that's our assumption. So if I assume that, then that means whatever A says is true, right? So according to this assumption, P is true, right? Now, so if that's the case, then A says B is a knight, right? So A says B is a knight. So according to our assumption, then Q should also be true because A can only say the truth. So now let's look, but we don't know what kind of person B is, right? So B says the two of us are of opposite side, opposite types, right? So which means they both cannot be the same at the like both cannot be a knight or both cannot be a knave at the same time according to what B says, right? So we can represent that using a propositional statement like this. So P, which means A is a knight, and if B is not a, then B should not be a knight according to B. So which means it should be not Q, right? Or it will be the case that A is a knave, which means A is not a knight, and Q is a knight, right? So this is what B says, right? So let's see, according to our assumption, uh, what we get here is this. So we said we already know that P is true and Q is true. So if P is true, this is T true and false, right? Which is false. Or now what is not P? Not P is false and Q is true. So this thing evaluates to false and this thing also evaluates to false. So false union false is false. So according to the assumption that we made, right, what B says is false, right? Okay. So if what B says is false, then it's not true that the two of us are opposite types, which means the two should be the same type, right? So since B, whatever B is saying is false, I can conclude that B is a knave, right? But then that contradicts. So if B is a knave, they both cannot be of the opposite side. So A should also be a knave, right? So that contradicts the initial assumption that we made that A is a knight, right? So if A is a knight, then we cannot have A to be also a name. So which means the initial assumption that we made, that's wrong. Which means A is a name, right? So if A is a knave, right? So A is a knave. So we have determined that A is a knave. We are sure that A is a knave, right? So A is a knave. So whatever A says is wrong, or lie, right? So what does A say? A says B is a knight, which means it's wrong. Which means B is a knave. So we can conclude that this is the correct type of A and B according to what they have said. So, like this is how you can logically follow steps to make conclusions, right? So, okay.